What up, y'all? In this video, I want to talk about, like, when you first meet a woman and, like, if she's super gorgeous, or you just like her off the bat. Like, we all do this. Like, to some extent, we're gonna start having a fantasy about her, right? Like, maybe some of us are quicker than other ones. Like, some of us, maybe you meet the girl and you're already imagining being married to her for 20 years and opening Christmas presents with the kids and whatever not that you guys are gonna have, or whatever not. I mean, to some it might be extreme, to some it may be less. Maybe you imagine just being sitting on a park bench or on a date or something like that. You start to have these thoughts, right? And this is normal, as far as I understand. But the difference is that I feel like men who are more attractive to women, they separate themselves from the fantasy, right? They see that fantasy as a movie in their head, but it's not necessarily reality, and they're able to separate it. Like, I think to a certain extent we can't really control it. That fantasy pops up, and we start tailoring our actions to be more attractive to them. You can't really control it, but if you separate yourself from it and just see it as a movie, then you won't get as sucked up into it, right? Because, like, a woman, I think, can tell. She knows, like, if you're already looking at her the way you look at her, when you guys are sitting across from the table, is like you're just totally into her and you're seeing a fantasy. Because women like men who are present-minded in the objective world, right? Who just see what's going on around them and they see reality, right? They're not in their head and in their feelings, right? And there's nothing wrong with having the feelings, but you have to stay grounded and in the present moment, right? So your job should be to want to see reality, right? To want to see reality. Does this girl actually like you? Is she a good person? Like, how is she actually reacting to me? And things like that. Because, especially maybe if you consider yourself touch deprived, or you've been rejected a lot, or it didn't work out with the last girl or whatever, you're going to be very hungry for that next win or whatever. And you use that fantasy like a high. You get a high off of it. And I think it's a lot better, like I'm saying, it's okay maybe to do that fantasy. Maybe you go home and engage in the fantasy, whatever, think about it. But you kind of got to separate yourself, especially if she starts distancing herself. Then you're not seeing her as much, so now you really want to fantasize about it. But it's just honestly, like I'm saying, you just got to keep it in check. Like, because I think the girl can tell, like, as a man, it's better that you're more like a stoic type of wall, right? Because women want to be able to get up in their feelings. They want to be able to have a fantasy, but they want you to be more in reality, right? And then after maybe months of them analyzing you, and you spend time around each other, then maybe they're okay with you actually starting to love them for real or whatever. But they don't want this fantasizer at the start, because it's kind of weak. It's kind of like you're using her like a drug. Like, you're fantasizing about her, you're using the thought of her like a drug to get dopamine to your head, and it's kind of like you should be working hard or being more stoic, But the other part about it is that doesn't mean that you can't flirt with her. And flirting, will be more ambiguous, and it doesn't fully show that you like her. It just means that you like bantering in that moment because it's fun, and that still counts as being part of reality, right? And I think that's where we should put our focus, because focusing on that will actually be fun. It will still release dopamine without you being stuck in a fantasy and being like all caught up in your feelings and stuff, which doesn't really come across as masculine, to be up in your head in a fantasy and whatever not. So in the next video, I want to talk about what I've been finding out about flirting and some interesting things that I've been realizing and discovered recently. So yeah. And even this can even make women uncomfortable if you're up in the fantasy, because like even sometimes you got to be careful. Like, let's say you watch like romantic movies and stuff like that, and then you try to repeat it. You try to repeat those scenes by looking at her or by saying these kind of witty lines or whatever, like you're in a movie. She might be like kind of scared that you're trying to recreate these such deep moments such early on. So also be careful that you don't copy movies too much, because those movies can go really deep in just like 2 hours, right? Where it's just, a whole story of someone falling in love in a 2-hour movie, but life doesn't move that quick in reality. So be careful about copying scenes and the feeling. Even copying the feeling that you get in movies could be too deep. So yeah, it's totally okay to be like, surrounded by women or whatever, but it should be a social thing, not like a sexual thing. Like, it shouldn't be photos of you with your arm around 2 women, like at a bar. Like, that's sexual, bro. It should be sociable. Does that make sense? So yeah.